Hey everybody, in this video we're going to start building our calculator. So in the last video we did all this planning and I think we're good to go. So I'm going to split this up into two videos, two or three, and let's just see here what we want to accomplish in the first video. So obviously this part, when considering the importance of our features, whenever I tackle a new project I like to do the most important features first, followed by the least important. So these regular features here, multiplication, division, probably important. Asking users for input, probably important, and processing is going to be important. Now, I'm going to leave derivative as a wish list item for some later video, and freeform as well. History we could do, and clearing the screen we could do. All right, let's begin. So we're going to make a new file. We'll call it calculator.py. And notice right here I kind of opened the calculator terminal. Alright, let's get started. So, like before, we probably, we had like the game loop in our guess my number game. We want some sort of game loop, right? And we want this continue condition. So, should we continue asking the user for input? And that should be true initially, and they will have an opportunity to set that to be false later on. So we have our game loop right here. And we probably want, now let's consider some variables that we can use. Some variables we can use are going to be like the current operation, what the user tells us, and we'll set, and it'll be like some number pad kind of deal. So we'll set current operation equal to 0, to start off with. And we also want like a list of all of our available operations, right? So we want like all operations. So all operations. And that'll be, let's see. So we're going to have a comment up here that'll map it out. So we will say operation to, or rather number to operation. Actually, here, I think what we can just say is listed out in the comments here, and then we'll need like some creative way to print it out. So actually, so the operations I think will be a list of strings that'll represent it. So what we can say is we want 0 being addition, or add for short, 1 being subtraction. We will have 2 being multiplication, 3 being division. Let's see here. 4 being mod, and we'll do a new line here because this line's getting long. We don't want to be scrolling back and forth so many times. Modulus. Then we'll have exponent. What happened here? Oh, exponent. And then we will have log. Then we will have ceiling and floor. And let's just go back in here and populate all the numbers. 5, 6, 7, and 8. Now, since we're doing ceiling and floor, if you remember from our other video, we will do import math for ceiling and floor. Okay, cool. So we have our operations here. Now we probably need to print them out, right? So we're gonna say print our operations. So we actually do have to print a good amount of things. So we can just put this all into one function, right? So we'll have this function that says print user options, what they can press, and we will print, this will consist of printing below, select below, so select below, or select an operation below. Oh, and then we of course need one to quit, so 9 will be quit, in case you don't want to use a calculator anymore. And we will have a for loop. So for our operation in operations, so this is going to go through each operation, we will print the operation. So we will print each operation. Select an operation below and print it out. And then we can now take this function, put it over here, and now get the input for a specific user. Oh, and then we need to print a new line. So this escape and this back this /n means print a new line. So now the user can enter a choice. So now we're going to say user input choice will be equal to input of the choice. Okay. And now we can process this, right? So we have all of our operations. We define them up here. We have our current operation, which will store the. Actually, we don't need this variable. There's no reason for it to be outside the while loop, as our operations are going to be consisting inside. The only reason to have this variable outside the while loop is if we need to have some other function access it. But I think we're good to go. We don't need that. If anything, to pass data to another function, we can just use a method, like a function, like parameter. Cool. So now, once we have our choice, we should probably parse that choice. So if user choice is equal to 0, and the user is going to be entering some number, so we better be sure, because int will keep it in a string, so we want to convert that. We want to pass it to the int function, which will give us an integer. So if the user input's equal to 0, well, if it's equal to 0, then let's go back to our flow right here. We're gonna want to ask the user for some input. So let's ask him for input. So ask user for input. That'll be some function. And so let's actually write this whole thing out right now. So def ask the user for some input. And I kind of defined in the last video in my planning document that the parameters that the user enters will be split by a string, or by commas rather. So if I say multiplication, well, what do you want to multiply? Well, I want to multiply 5, 4, and 3. Then I'm going to specify like this by separating it into commas. So first, let me print a message that explains to the user how to enter their input, and then I'll actually ask them for it. So enter the operation parameters separated by commas. I'm not sure if I spelled that correctly. And I'll give them an example. That would be 5, 4, and 3. So separated by commas. Now we'll ask them for it. So we'll say the operation parameters are going to be equal to parameters, like asking for the parameters. And we'll add a new line here so that the print statement and the input are on different lines. So we ask them for the parameters, and now what we do, so remember the result's going to be a string. Now ideally we want to split up this string by commas, right? So if we're given 5, 4, and 3, well then we want 5, we want 4, and we want 3. So to split a string, by splitting we mean take each part and separate it by a common character. We're going to call the split command. So we're going to say parameters equals operation parameters dot split of comma, right? So what we're saying is we're going to call the split function on the operation parameters, and that'll give us a list. The output is a list of parameters. And now we can return the list of parameters. Cool. So we have our parameters. And now what we can say, so we ask the user for the parameters, and now we want to do is we want to have a function for adding numbers. So def add numbers. Cool. And this will obviously take in our parameters, which we just have here. Right, so if we want to pass data to a function, then we use a parameter. And we could say the sum will be equal to 0. And what we want to do is we want to iterate through all the parameters and add them all together. So what it'll be is we're going to say for the parameter, in parameters, right, we're doing a for loop here, we're iterating for the parameter in the parameters. Then we're going to say, hey, sum. Oh, actually, sorry. We should change the variable name because the sum is actually a reserved keyword, just like you can't name a variable for because it's kind of taken by Python. So we'll say like result. And we will say result equals result plus parameter. Alright, so we're going to add everything to result by parameter and then ultimately return the result. And now what we could say is we can say print result. And once we ask them for the input, we should probably print out a new line here so that after they ask for it, we can now print out the whole result. Alright, let's test this out. We wrote some good code. Let's see how it works. Python 3 calculator.py. Alright, so let's see here. I want to do add addition. I enter the parameters 5, 4, 3. Alright, couple things here. One, so this whole operation, asking for an operation, it makes a lot of space. I think if you just do this, and we have some extra space there, get rid of that. Oh, and two, we forgot to call add numbers. So how great is that? So we will say result equals add numbers of parameters. All right, let's try that out. Clear. Like just clears the terminal, makes it easier to see. We're gonna add some numbers. Let's say 5, 4, 3. Ah, yeah. And remember, the split operation, it'll return a list of strings. So we need to convert these to integers. So we will say int. Or no, not int. Well, they could also pass us anything, right? So they could say like 3.2, 5.3, whatever it is. So we need to make sure to put a float here, so in case they have decimal numbers, because an integer is not a decimal number. So to cover that case, and now we should be good to go. All right, add 5, 4, 3, and we get 12, which is correct. And now we're brought to the next one. So I think I'll leave it here for now for this video. In the next video, we'll implement the rest and hopefully get all the basic functionality done. Looking forward to it. See you guys in the next video.